The Secrets of Technology is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give. You're listening to The Secrets of Technology. Hi, I'm Dom Bettinelli, and you're listening to The Secrets of Technology, where we discuss the technology news that's important to you from a uniquely Catholic point of view. And joining me today on the panel are Joanne Mercier. Hi, Joanne.
Hello, hello.
And Father Cory Stika. Hi, Father Cory.
How's it going?
Very well, thank you. Let's get right into it. Today, our first topic today is an interesting one. There's an analyst. So I want to be clear on this. This is not something that has been announced or is even rumored, but it's an idea that some financial analysts are throwing out there of what could happen. And what this analyst, I forgot their name already, but they're Gene Munster, who's a longtime financial analyst who looks at Apple a lot, says Apple should, and perhaps other companies should, begin to offer hardware subscriptions. And yeah, they are from Loop Ventures is the name of their analyst firm. So I give them credit. And so already you can do there's an iPhone upgrade program where every year you pay a monthly fee and you get to upgrade your iPhone every year, which is essentially a subscription. What they think should happen is that, or that Apple might do, is that they will expand that to include iPads, Macs, Apple Watch, etc. And then you would be able to periodically, and we can talk about how often that should occur, turn in your old device and get a new one. And you're paying a monthly fee for that. And we've seen that with other hardware sorts of things, and we've already done this with phones for a long time with the carriers. So what do y'all think? Is this something you would want to do, a hardware subscription service? What would you want to be part of it? What would you be willing to for hardware? And this doesn't have to just be Apple, it could be other companies as well. And how much do you think would be a reasonable price for such a thing? So let's start with you. Joanne, would you subscribe to an Apple hardware program?
This one's tough because I tried the iPhone one and I ended up keeping it 3 years. So it's not like I'm one of I'm a boomer. All right. And when I get something, I keep it as long as I need it. But I'm also a geek, so I like the latest and greatest. It's a really tough call for me. I'm not sure I like software stuff in subscription, so I don't know how hardware. My last MacBook Pro is 5 years old. So I'm not sure if this is made for me. It's probably made for, the younger set, but I'm just not sure it's something that's made for me.
How about you, Father Cory? Is this something that would be attractive to you?
Well, I mean, just a reminder that I'm running on a Hackintosh, so
exactly.
It isn't. Actually, my thought was if they do it like a lease model, like they do with cars, where you lease it for a couple of years and you can either buy it or turn it back. I wouldn't mind being the guy who goes and buys the 2-year-old MacBook Pro, because it's still going to be a very good computer. You're still going to get quite a few years out of it, and they're going to cut easily a third, if not half of the price off.
Right. And Apple always, if they sell something refurbed, it's like factory new, and it comes with a warranty.
Because they'll take it back, they'll polish it up, they'll make sure everything works, make sure it's all updated. So that, for those of us who like to own our own equipment, like I'm the guy who buys I don't do the pay. Well, I do the pay per month, but it's the pay per month to own your phone. So that by the time you're done with it, you're basically making a loan on a phone is what you're doing. But then once you're done with it after, a year or two, you own the phone. It's yours. So, that I could see is the big advantage for someone like me. I could see a lot of people, and I would disagree that it's necessarily younger people. I can see a lot of people that if Apple went to them and said, you like iMacs or MacBook Pros, you like Macintoshes, but what do you do with these ones when you're done with them? well, how about we just make it so you don't have to worry about it, and every 2 years we send you a new one? And I could see a lot of people, again, like the lease, because there's a reason why car manufacturers offer leases, because a lot of people do like them if they're not going to drive as much. Like for me, it would make absolutely no sense to do a lease on a car. But for something like this, I could see people saying businesses. I could see a lot. I know this has been in practice, actually, I know in business for a very long time.
Right. There's the old saying, buy what appreciates, lease what depreciates, and
right.
Computer equipment depreciates. And you're right. Apple has had institutional leasing programs for ages, for schools. For many churches I've worked with, I know that they've done leasing, and every 2-3 years they get a new Macs or new PCs or whatever it is that they do, and those are usually done through third-party companies. But to bring this to the consumer would be interesting. I mean, yeah, I think about it. It would be, you usually have to be a fairly good-sized company for the leasing to make work in the current leasing programs. But if I could, with SQPN, my iMac is feeling a little slow compared to these new M1s out there. When the new M1 iMacs come out in 2021, I'm like, I could edit at top speed, edit these shows. If I could just, it's time to swap up, time to get a new one. iMacs, Macs in general last forever, 5 years or more. It's an interesting question, and of course the question then is how much. Right now, like I saw the number was to the iPhone upgrade program for an iPhone 12 is which including AppleCare is $34 a month. I'm gonna guess if you were to be comparable percentage wise, an iPad Pro would be probably $25 a month. An Apple Watch would be $10 a month. I might pay $10 a month get a new Apple Watch every year. I don't know. What do you think?
But with hardware, as someone who has leased cars before and will never do it again, it depends on what they write into the contract, saying you can do this, you can do that, you can't go over this, you can't go over that. Are they going to start saying you can't do certain things with it? Or are they going to say, if you drop it, for example, now apparently you'd have to have AppleCare, but even though if you drop it, what happens? Is it your fault? Do you have to pay for anything? And then what happens if you give it back in 2 years and it's not in great condition? Some people do not know how to take care of their toys. So are they going to, take money off? They're going to charge you more? Those are the things we'd have to think about.
Certainly. That is definitely true. And again, different companies would have different policies. Apple has generally been generous with warranty repairs and that sort of stuff. If you drop it, like when I had broke my screen on my iPad, I had to pay $50 under AppleCare to replace it. And I could see them including that, but other companies may not be so generous. So you'd have to look at them one by one.
Yeah, it definitely, I would think Apple would make sure that, just like they are with the iPhone trade-in program, you get AppleCare as part of the deal because, again, if they do lease for 2 or 3 years, they're going to want to be able to resell this device, and there probably will be conditions like if the device comes back, a biohazard situation where, you've seen those computers where the person is like constantly eating on top of them. And they're basically, there's more chips in the computer than there is, in the bag they're eating from. Then yeah, the Apple is going to charge them for that. But I would venture most people, I would argue, do treat, expensive electronics pretty well, all in all. Most people do protect their expensive electronics.
Apart from their phones.
Yeah.
True there.
That's true. Yeah. Well, even phones. I mean, how many people do we know, just average Joe users, not even geeks, have even just a basic case on their phone?
They do, but also think of how many people who have right now their phone has cracks in the screen.
I have friends that have that.
Nearly everyone under the age of 25 I know, unless their phone is under 4 months old.
Younger, yes. But I especially, let's just say adults.
Yeah.
I think most of us treat, most people, again, we can think of the people with the beater cars, but most people treat their cars fairly decent because they know the investment in the car. Most people treat their expensive electronics. Now, I'm not talking about the $400 Walmart special laptop. If they buy a good laptop, they're going to care for it because they know the money, the $2,000 they spent on a new MacBook Pro, for example.
Right. Does that change the mentality if I think it's not mine that I bought, but I'm paying a subscription on it and it's not really mine, I'm going to turn it in? Do people get more careless or less careless? If there's a penalty or if they have to pay for damage at the end, maybe. I mean, there's already a trade-in program, right? You can trade in your old phone or laptop or whatever, and when you're buying a new one. So there's a little, and they grade it based on damage and that sort of thing. They tend to be, again, Apple tends to be a little lenient in that regard. I haven't seen, I think people get what they expect. If you have a cracked screen or a ding in it, you're gonna get fair condition as opposed to good or like new. But yeah, if you put a screen protector on, if you put a case on it, my wife's MacBook has a case on it because she's destroyed 3 of them by pouring water into them. So now she gets a case and a keyboard cover so that we're trying to stop this trend, and she's done a good job so far. It's been a year, knock on wood. But if you do that, you take care of your stuff. Yeah, I think, and I'm not sure I would do it for everything. I think a watch subscription might make sense. Upgrading that watch every year, if it were every year. If it were $10 a month, that's $120 a year. These watches go for about $300. I don't know. That's iffy for me. So I may not be the ideal one for that sort of thing, I guess.
Well, and I mean, something like a watch is something that by nature is going to get beat up because you're going to be doing things and you're going to scrape it against a door and you're going to hit this.
Although, I got to tell you, this Apple Watch looks pristine, and I am not the most gentle user of consumer tech. So
they've gotten better.
Do a good job.
They've gotten better because I've had Series 1, Series 0, 3, and now 5. And I think that the glass has gotten a lot better. Either that or the pandemic just doesn't allow me to bump into anything. I have no idea.
Now, what we've been talking about the hardware, which honestly I think that makes sense to offer. Now, with the software, that's already a trend.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't it, for Adobe Audition, their Dom?
Right. Well, right. We, as SQPN, pays for we get a nonprofit price on the Adobe Creative Suite. And so it gives me access to all the different stuff, most of which I don't use. But because it's a nonprofit thing, it's actually fairly inexpensive, which is nice. And even on the individual level, you could get Photoshop and Lightroom for $10 a month, which is interesting if that's the sort of thing you need. Although there are third-party programs which are cheaper and in some cases arguably better, like some of the Affinity and stuff like that.
But the idea is that software as a service is already a thing.
It is already here.
And it's becoming more and more common. It drives me nuts because, I mean, that's basically the model of Windows now. It's not so much you buy licenses to Windows. It's you buy a license and they just keep upgrading it because they make their money off of Office 365, which is the same thing. You pay so much a month for all the Office suites. So that's not out of the realm of possibility that we could see Final Cut Pro as the
Apple software as
a suite, as a pay per year. Like right now I still have my license of iMovie from back my original iMac, in 2009, and I could see Apple saying, no, from now on, you got to pay $5 a month for iMovie or something.
But all that stuff is free though. Like all the iWork suite, GarageBand,
free
movie.
Yeah, I mean,
you don't pay it for it. If you own a Mac,
that's why I said I've got my license for iMovie. If I hadn't bought an iMac through Apple, I wouldn't have at that time. You had to have a license from buying a computer from Apple to get it, or you had to buy it at that point. But now it's free.
Well, yeah, but if you've bought a Mac, anytime in the last 10 years, you have access to all of that software.
The point is that model of having a license for the rest of your life, as long as you can, find the install media or whatever, is going away.
I suppose. I mean,
it depends. I'm a little bit more happy with software, subscriptions, because then I get the upgrade all the time.
I'm not shelling out.
Right, and not have to think about, okay, do I have to go buy this new one because it's not, and I need it for certain things. Like before we started today, Audio Hijack said to me, here, you need to update. And it did. And then it started telling me what it can do now. So now that I know it's okay for Big Sur, thinking about that. But the point with the software subscriptions is that it's an easier way of updating your guts. The housing, however, a lot of us kind of keep the housing because we're familiar with it. Okay, when I went from a MacBook Pro without a touch bar to a touch bar, it took me 6 months to decide to even try to use it because I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure about it. I was like, yeah, let me just leave the things on here that I know. Within the last couple of months, I've started to see the value of using it for certain programs. And it's like, okay, now I can do this. And I think that's where the difference is going to be. People are okay with software subscriptions, but hardware might be a little too funky for people.
I think there are a lot of people happy to stick with the hardware for longer, than with the software. So for me, software subscriptions, I wasn't on board at first. In fact, SetApp is the sort of the Netflix of Mac software subscriptions, where you pay a monthly fee and you get any of the software. You can use any of the software in their catalog. And it didn't drop for me until they had a lot of these programs that I already use that I was paying for. In fact, a few that I was paying an outside subscription. Now it became a case of what I'm paying annually to SetApp is less than I was paying to upgrade the software annually, and that is when it shifted. But I get your point, Father Cory. Like there was a time when you own the disk, you own the right to use that software as long as the hardware and operating system supported it.
Let's be honest. How many people used, say, Office 97 forever? Office 95, Office 97, and because it worked, and not just did it work in Windows 98 when it first came out, it worked all the way into XP and Vista, and people were still able to use it.
What was the Mac Word version that was like? It was Word 6 was awful, but it was the previous version, I forget which one it was the good one. And so I remember, this is ages ago, ancient history, folks, when people would refused to upgrade to Word 6 and held on to the Word 95, I think it was. I forget what it was. And kept using it long after it had been retired because Word 6 was so terrible. But if you're on a subscription, you're constantly saying no, don't upgrade it, or you have to live with the new software. So I get that.
But I do agree. I think people would be more open to software subscription. Especially again as computers become more toasters, basically, where you don't really think about upgrading your toaster. The toaster breaks, you throw it out, you buy a new one. Right. They're appliances,
And certain things, like a phone, there are new models every year. It's like cars, right? Computers aren't the same. Like we expect now every fall for there to be a new iPhone. We expect July there to be a new Pixel, right? I mean, or something along those lines, or at least Samsung. Yeah. I guess Google's not as clockwork, but like Samsung has a new phone every year, and like we expect phones to have new models every year. I could see that as an upgrade thing. Same thing with apparently smartwatches now are upgraded on a regular basis. I think iPads are doing that, so tablets. But computers, we don't get new models of of the particular computer we use every year. And Mac people buy Macs, but in the Windows side, like I might buy a Dell, I might buy a Lenovo, in that case, I think the manufacturers may like the idea of a subscription because it keeps people loyal to their brand.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Whereas for the consumer, you're locking yourself into a brand.
Exactly.
That's an interesting question then too.
Well, there are people who I've bought I just this is kind of a theoretical, but there's I've bought IBM ThinkPads back in the 90s, and they were great computers, and Lenovo took them over, and they're still great computers, and I still buy ThinkPads to this day, and they won't look at a Dell, they won't look at an HP, which their high end units are just as good as ThinkPads, but they're locked into that business. It's just like people who are just going to buy a Ford, or they're just going to buy a Chevy because Grandpa bought Chevys and Dad bought Chevys, and so I'm buying
Ford
Chevys.
Family. Yeah.
Well, I must be a consistent person. I've had Macs since 2010, and I've had Subarus. I'm on my 6th Subaru.
Yeah.
So I must be.
I'm not a locked in on a car model, but I've been an Apple guy since about 1980. So
there you go.
There you go.
That's me. All right. So let's so we want to hear from the listeners. Like, hey, would you go for a hardware subscription of any sort, whether it's Apple or Google or Samsung or whoever, Dell or whatnot? What would be the reason you would go for it? What would be the price point you would pay? What kind of hardware would you subscribe to? Let us know. We'll see what you think. So let's move to our next topic. This one is something that people have been asking about because you've been getting these in your email from Google. Google has some policy changes that they're implementing lately, and there's a couple we want to talk about today. We talked about their change to their Google Photos storage. We talked about that a few weeks ago, and how if you're not a Pixel owner, you're going to start next year. You're going to start to see limits on what you can upload. So we've already talked about that. But this one is, you may have got an email that tells you that they have their new storage policies for Google accounts that use all of their services, whether it's Gmail or Drive or Photos or whatever, about inactivity. If your account becomes inactive for 18 months, they could delete the account. And so especially if you're over quota. So every account comes with 15 gigabytes of free storage. You can buy more. When you're over quota, which is you're using more than 15, they start to give you notice. And after a while, they will begin to delete the stuff over quota. I'm trying to look at it doesn't give an exact, if you've been over quota for 2 years or longer, that's what it is. They give you 2 years of being over quota to fix the situation. Mm-hmm. I think that's kind of generous. They also have an inactivity message about if you don't use your accounts for 2 years, they may delete it from their servers. You're obviously not using it, and so just delete. Of course, so let's talk about that. What do you think of these policies, both the over quota and the inactivity policies?
So the over quota makes sense. You got this much space, don't go over it. Now, they say that if you stay over quota for too long, they just blow it away. They just blow away your account. It's gone. It's not like we're going to pick data to get rid of it. It's like it's all gone. But they also restrict what you can do with your account. So like, for example, with Gmail, if you go over quota, you can't send or receive messages, which means your Gmail account is pretty much useless. Google Drive, obviously you can't upload anything new. Google Photos, same thing. So I think that one kind of makes sense. Of course, Google they're doing this. They started out like Gmail was like absolutely unlimited. It didn't even have a delete button. I mean, that was kind of the joke way back when that Gmail, when the delete button finally showed up on Gmail, I remember cartoons, web comics that were going, "What is this strange thing? Why is it here? Don't touch it." Right. It might break something.
You never delete any email because you can always search it, etc. And then
and now they've obviously scaled that back. Well, now they're doing that with storage as well, because you can imagine. Okay, let's say we each are using our 15 gigabytes of free storage times how many millions of people? I mean, there are probably server racks that are just handling data that has never been touched since they've been uploaded to the cloud.
Yeah, and I know I am personally guilty of that, because I've used some of my Google accounts, the G drives, for uploading storage. It's just stuff I'm saving Like I have all of we were talking about this earlier, but I have all of this stuff from my old podcast is sitting in a G drive. And I'm like, okay, so now I've got to blow it into my hard drive here at home. I do have a couple of redundant backups, but I want to keep it somewhere so that we can continue using it. But I don't think I'm going to be able to now. I mean, I know I'm probably gaming the system by keeping things in different places, but I just think that I'm just unhappy with Google lately. So that's probably a bigger picture.
We should talk about sometime, not necessarily today, but as a segment in the future, about where places to store your stuff online. If you need stuff stored in the cloud, where could you put it? Like Dropbox, yeah, Amazon's various options, and how to use them effectively and cost effectively, especially. But yeah, that's a good point. So some of the stuff they talk about, like, so what do they count as taking up space? So if you have a Google Drive, your trash counts. So empty your trash. In fact, they've implemented a new policy where the trash in your Google Drive is going to empty every 30. If a file gets older than 30 days, they're going to start to delete it. But starting June 1st, all this stuff is really sort of starts June 1st of 2021. New Google Docs, Sheets, Slides, Drawings, Forms, or Jamboard files, I'm not even sure what Jamboard is, will count towards storage, but your existing files won't unless they're modified on or after that date. So, Joanne, you might be okay with your old files that are already there.
That's what I'm hoping for.
There's still the inactive clause, and that's the part to watch for. But it says all you have to do is once you get the email, your account has been inactive for, they say, like 3 months before it gets deleted. So your account has been inactive for 21 months. Log into Google, go look at your files, and close it out. I mean, literally, that's all you have to do.
Yeah, if you use the account, if you're getting Gmail, or if you're using other parts of your Google Drive folder, right, you're staying active. So
now the one question I do have is with Gmail, are they going to count using IMAP connections to Gmail? So in other words, reading Gmail through like Outlook or some other mail tool? Because like I've got all my Gmail accounts logged into Outlook.
Oh yeah,
right.
And so I'm looking at them every day, but does that count for the inactive, or do I actually have to go to the Gmail interface, which isn't bad? It's not a bad web interface, but it's easier to use an as standalone tool. Does that count for the inactivity? That I'm not there every day, so that my Gmail will never go away.
I've never seen that, and I use most of mine go through something like that. So
according to their help file, example of activity that counts is access email via API or a third-party mail client.
Okay, there we
go.
So
I would guess that counts. So that's activity. So, and the thing with Gmail is your spam folder and trash count as well. So if you're running out of space, make sure to empty those. That again, spam empties every 30 days, I think, and trash. I think they're implementing a 30-day policy on the trash as well. So that you should be okay there. If you get big attachments, if you get multi-megabyte attachments on a regular basis, download them and delete them from the server. That sort of thing. But I have to say that Gmail is a hard one because sometimes it's not that easy to figure out what's taking up all that space when if you've had a Gmail address for 10 years or more, you could be approaching some of these limits. So what do I do about that? How do I save my email, that old email? So there are ways to do that. We could talk about some of it, but there are some apps that will do that will download them into a database and allow you to search them. On the other hand, do you really need 10-year-old emails anymore? Some people might for their job, but that you might need a specialized software for that. But
my feeling on the whole thing is just that Google is starting to do a lot of these things, and people who have Google accounts really don't understand what's going to happen to them. See what I'm saying? They it's free. I got a Gmail account. And they don't know that things like this can happen. Or photos, for example. I had a friend ask me about Google Photos, and I'm like, it might be a good idea to get your stuff out of Google Photos and go somewhere else for the time being because they just keep dropping stuff.
Well, but we're not talking about the one part though. Is they have Google One now, which is the all-in-one, pay for it all and keep it.
Mm-hmm. And that's what they want.
But let's not fool ourselves. Apple's going to do this at some point.
Oh yeah,
they're going to decide all the free storage they're giving away is too much.
They don't give that much. They don't give that much to begin with.
But I mean, Dropbox has already done this years ago. Because Dropbox came out and it was still pretty decent for free, and now they've dropped a lot of that. So this is not Google doing anything that the rest of the industry hasn't already done.
I think Apple was ahead of the curve by not giving away the house. They've always been pretty parsimonious, and frankly, I think if you sell a phone and you're selling cloud storage, the free cloud storage should be at least the size of the phone.
Yeah.
If you're selling a 128 gigabyte phone, you should give 128 gigabytes of storage. At least back the thing up, or something along those lines. But it's the Google One plan for 100. You get 100 gigabytes for $2 a month or $20 a year. It's again, we talked about subscriptions. These things start to add up. $10 here, $20 there. That does get expensive. But if you're a Google person and you're all in on the Google services, $20 a year is for 100 gigs is not bad. So my personal Gmail account, I've had it for 10 years or more. It's been my primary email address. I have 5.48 gigabytes of 17 gigabytes used. I must have gotten a free 2 gigabytes somewhere. And that's for over 10 years. I back up all my photos to Google Photos. I back up, I have a small Google Drive, but those are negligible. I'm not worried about this biting me anytime soon. So I'm content on my 15 gig storage plan with some 2 gigabytes from somewhere. But if you go to one.google.com there, and then you go to storage, everyone who has a Google account, Gmail or whatever, you can go to this. There is a thing to click on, free up account storage, and it'll walk you through ways of, different ways of discarded items, large items. You can review these things, large photos, et cetera, et cetera. So it works through some of the ways for you to free up space. So I'm looking at mine right now. I can, in trash and spam folders in my Gmail, I have about 83 megabytes. Large items, I have a bunch of very large items, somewhat large items, that take up 1.8 gigabytes. Which I should look at because that seems like a lot of get some things in there that maybe I should get rid of. I mean,
I'll be honest. This one doesn't worry me so much, especially since they're giving you 2 years to make sure you're not inactive. This isn't like you got 30 days like some software has done in the past.
Yes.
So this one doesn't worry me so much. It's the other story.
Yes, let's talk about that one. So this is one I hadn't been aware of. Joanne, you forwarded a message for me from eCatholic. eCatholic is a service that provides websites for Catholic parishes around the country. It's a paid service. And they've let their client parishes know that YouTube has updated its terms of service. And the reason they're letting them know is because a lot of parishes put YouTube videos on their site. And what they're telling us is that YouTube's changed its terms of service to add the right to monetize to all videos. And what is the difference here? So if you've used YouTube at all, you've noticed ads running on a lot of pages. Okay. But that's been through something called the ad partner program or something. As
creator program or something like that. Yeah.
As a YouTube channel, once you've reached a certain level of likes, subscribers, and views, you can join this program and you share in the revenue from ads that appear on your videos, which is fine. So you've chosen to be part of this. Now the new thing is YouTube has announced that they will put ads in any video that they deem is brand safe, quote unquote. So obviously they're going to put it in the things that are awful that'll make them look bad, but so any video could have ads on it, including videos uploaded by your parish. So, you could have a nice video of a catechetical program, and in the middle is an ad for children's cereal or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a bit concerning.
Mm-hmm. It certainly is.
Very much so. And of course, if you've been watching YouTube without an ad blocker, which I highly do not recommend, and you should have an ad blocker immediately, you know how lousy YouTube has gotten with ads where I watched one video like on my phone or whatever. It was a 10-minute video and there were 6 ad breaks.
Mm-hmm.
10 minutes seems to be the sweet spot when they start to really jump the ads in.
And it was absolutely, I just gave up because it's like you watch 2 minutes and you have an ad break. You watch 2 minutes, you have an ad break. It's like, no. And of course, they're supposed to have the algorithm that finds a break in the video. So like and it never works. It's always mid-sentence.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Always.
The presenter pauses for a moment and continues. Well, no, there must be a break.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, I wish they would have some category for, so there, I'm going to guess they have this new YouTube Kids category. I haven't seen the terms of service, but my thought is they've already said that they're not monetizing those. They're not part of the YouTube Partner Program. If you say your ad is aimed at kids, it can't run ads. I'm going to guess that's going to continue.
That's that COPPA Act.
Right.
Prevents them from doing that.
So if you do primarily videos aimed at kids and have no intent on monetizing them, that might be a place for you. Although that also puts certain limits on. You
can't do commentary or you can't do comments. You can't do, like if you're doing a live stream, you can't have chat, things like that.
And that's fine with me. And that is what I've been doing.
Yeah, and that's something for people to be aware, though, that it does restrict if you want some of the interaction via YouTube.
I think it might also restrict some of the algorithm for engagement and recommendation. So that you could be cutting off your nose, but your face in that case. I wish they would implement some sort of program for nonprofits to opt out of ads. I think that would be appropriate, and maybe that's coming. I would like to see that, but certainly people should maybe request it. If you have a nonprofit account with Google, which you can, and a lot of churches, our SPPN has one, it might be worthwhile to contact them through that program and say, we'd like you to include nonprofits in being opted out of this. Then there are other options out there too. There's Vimeo and other video platforms.
Yeah, Vimeo I looked at, and it's not great in the free department. So that's the problem. What we've done in our parishes is that we're doing a live stream, and it's through Facebook, which I am not a happy camper with, but that's okay. And then I put it onto YouTube, and I do all that. The Safe for Kids. We're not monetized because I know a lot of parishes around here are yelling, we need 1,000 likes so that we can get actual live streaming.
That's so you could do live streaming through your phone.
Right.
They don't realize that you can still do it through like a laptop.
Yeah, but guess what? I think a lot of people are still live streaming masses through their phones.
Right.
And iPads. So, and that's what concerned me, because I don't want to see in the middle of a mass, some commercial for an inappropriate thing. That would just be.
Well, and if they're going to use their algorithm that finds blank spots, how many quiet times are there in the mass where YouTube would immediately say, oh, this is a good time for an ad?
Mm-hmm.
You could have a dozen ads in the middle of mass.
Right.
Yeah. It's not clear that these will apply to live streams versus recorded. Now, again, if you have a recorded mass that you've uploaded,
mm-hmm.
you don't want an ad to appear in the middle of it. That's true. Right. So, yeah, that is problematic. Of course, someone will say, look, we're getting this for free. We've been living for free on Google's dime. And so maybe we need to start thinking about if we're going to be doing this long term, maybe we need to be on a platform that we're paying, either we're the product or the customer, and maybe we need to find a platform where we can pay a couple bucks and have our stuff there. Again, it's the monopoly problem, though, which is YouTube is the video
mm-hmm.
place. We talked about this recently, I think it was last week, where as the internet users, we've kind of got ourselves into a problem. There is a wide internet, millions of websites, and we all go to the same handful all the time. So we've made YouTube and Facebook and Twitter into the monopolies that they are, because that's where we go.
Yeah, that's the reason why the only reason why I have a Facebook page is because of 2 other pages that I'm an admin on. And you can't be an admin on a page unless you have your own Facebook page. So that's how I do it. Do I want to be there? No, but I'll tell you, all I have to do on our Facebook page for the collaborative is put out, there are no tickets for these masses for Christmas. And everyone knows within 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So
that's right. There are all these alternatives out there. There's Daily Motion and Rumble and all these other places, but I mean they don't have the audience, and that's so. I think what I would like to see is something like the USCCB as a collective organization of the bishops and maybe other churches, organizations going to YouTube and saying, we'd like you to exempt churches, from this ad thing, so that because during the coronavirus lockdown and then after, we're going to be live streaming a lot of masses and it would be inappropriate. Or give us a way to pay. Like, if we had to pay a couple bucks a month, $2 a month, $5 a month, whatever it is. I mean, that wouldn't, I don't think that would break any church, frankly, or,
no.
$5 a month to opt out of the ads for our videos. So there needs to be more in this area, I think, before this comes into effect. So we'll keep an eye on it. And, and again, if you have a nonprofit account, definitely let YouTube know.
Yeah, make sure that if you've had a YouTube account prior to going nonprofit, that you hook it up to your nonprofit status. I had to do that when we went nonprofit, so it gave me a little bit more latitude. So some people don't realize that.
Yep. Very good.
It looks like the change is current for people in the United States. So if you're based here in the United States, they've already started doing this or can start doing this, but it's mid-year, so July basically for Europe, because of course Europe does have much more strict controls as far as data protection and stuff like that. So
that's right, in advertising. All right, before we move on to our next segment, I want to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the secrets of technology, including Jolie G, James S, Michael C, Samuel O, and David R. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the secrets of technology and all the shows at StarQuest. Now is a great time to become a StarQuest patron, thanks to a generous gift from a StarQuest supporter. When you start a new Patreon monthly pledge at sqpn.com/give, the first 3 months will be matched by an equal amount from our donor. So if you become a new patron at $10 a month, after 3 months, our donor will give $30 to StarQuest to support all our shows, including Secrets of Tech. So making your gift go even further. If you've been thinking of becoming a StarQuest patron, now is a great time to do so. So please visit sqpn.com/give today. All right, let's talk about some headlines. This is one that is right up our alley at Secrets of Tech because it has all the things. It's technology. It's got a Catholic angle. A company known Caviar, known as Caviar, which by the name is they cater to the elite, the wealthy. They create extravagant, expensive replacement casings for Apple's iPhone models. They have launched their new custom iPhone 12 Pro it's got gold, real gold, black and titanium or white versions, embossed. They have the front of each iPhone is untouched, but the back has a signature of a replica of Steve Jobs' autograph and the famous slogan, "Think Different." And in the Apple logo, they've embedded an authentic fragment of Steve Jobs' original famous turtleneck. That's right. You can get an iPhone with a Steve Jobs relic.
A third-class relic of Saint Steve Jobs. And yes, that is total sarcasm because he was no saint.
Yes. Oh man. So yeah, it's the white model is made of composite G10. I have no idea what that is. Covered with jewelry enamel, and its Apple logo is made of 925 sterling silver, while the gold model is made of genuine 18 karat gold, and its Apple logo is crafted from 750 gold. If you want one of these, the prices start at $6,490. It goes up to $10,000.
I just want all my friends to know that I did not ask for that for Christmas, nor will I ever ask for it.
No.
So each phone in the series will be released in a limited edition of 10 models, while the custom they also are selling custom New Balance 991 sneakers, which are those are the models that Steve Jobs wore. But yeah, yes, it's kind of funny. I mean, we laugh a little at the of course, the who would buy this, the ultimate wealthy nerds out there with money to burn. But there's an interesting thing about this, which is that it does recognize, people do recognize this idea of a connection with someone through a relic. I mean, the Catholics have relics. We have pieces of either the possessions of saints, or in some cases parts of their body, like a bone chip or something like that, that we have, we keep as precious. We put them in our altars, or we have them in a reliquary in which we remember the saints and we give them honor and ask them to pray for us as we meditate in front of them. So what do you guys think?
Thank you for the flattery, because, copying is, what is it? Copying is the sincerest form of flattery. Thank you for copying us, but don't.
Yes. Don't buy one of these.
Well, one key difference is you're not supposed to buy and sell relics.
Right.
That's
true.
But let's be honest, this isn't being done because they're seeing Steve Jobs as some kind of saint to admire in life. This is something where people can, those who are rich geeks can spend way too much money on a device. And we didn't even mention it's modeled in the iPhone 4, which is the famous "you're holding it wrong" model.
Yeah, that's right. That's their version that they're copying. It is based in Russia, by the way, hence the name Caviar. So it's a Russian company, and it does feel very Russian oligarch-ish. Like, I can see a Russian oligarch having one of these.
And that makes the idea of having a relic of Steve Jobs all the more understandable, because, of course, Orthodox also have the sense of relics.
Yes, that's true.
Yes,
it's
part of their culture.
Very, very, very similar to Catholic view on relics. So, and of course, we keep relics because we ask these saints to intercede for us. This is a way to have really a presence of that saint with us. So. And you could argue this is the same way.
So do they think if they have this relic of his turtleneck on their phone will never go bad? Like, they'll never have a problem? Like, it will just miraculously work all the time?
Yeah, the spirit of Steve is with me. No, they'll just have the desire to upgrade to the latest and greatest every year.
Well, that's the thing is, what do you do with this thing in a year when it's time to upgrade? But if you've got money to burn, you got money to burn.
If you can afford a $10,000 iPhone 12, you can afford to throw it out and buy a new one next year.
I wouldn't mind having a case where I could put my relic in it. I have a relic of Pier Giorgio Frassati, and I have a relic, the third-class relic of Pier Giorgio, third-class relic of Saint Faustina, and a first-class relic of Saint Mother Teresa, not Blessed,
nice.
Saint Mother Teresa. So, which I got from some of her nuns in Russia.
By the way, I misspoke earlier. This is a second-class relic because it was a possession of his.
Right.
Third-class relic is something that is touched to a first-class relic.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's right. And that's my Pier Giorgio is a second-class relic. It's like from his shirt or something like that. Which was really nice. And it's nice to have these things. They're like remembrances of saints, of special people. Power to you if you have. Hey,
all I can say is kind of is closing. If you can afford a $10,000 iPhone, my parish will take $10,000 and you'll get a lot more. It'll get a lot better use out of it. SQPN can afford can use $10,000 and we'll get a lot better use out of it.
That's right. All right, but from the ridiculous to the more serious, let's talk about this other story. There's Apple and Google have both announced that they're banning apps from their app stores that use social tracking software from a company called Xmode Social. All right, so we need to explain a little bit what's going on. So there's this company, Xmode, and what happens with a lot of developers is they don't write the entire app from scratch. It would be impossible to do these days. They're very complex. And so they will often use libraries that they purchase or license from other companies to do certain functions. Like I need to be able to do location tracking, so I'm going to license a library if it's not already built into the phone software to begin with. And so there's this company called Xmode, which has been selling this tracking-based software, location software. And what they've found is that this SDK, this software development kit, has had a secondary function of keeping track of people's locations and then bundling it up and selling it to other companies to use in their businesses, or we've also been found that they've been selling it to, among other customers, the U.S. military, and who knows who else. They might have been selling it to other nation-state actors and that sort of thing. That is a big no-no. Both Apple and Google have said, they gave a week to app developers, and the week has already expired, to remove the Xmode from their apps. Apple gave 2 weeks, so that's about to expire, or have their apps removed from the app stores. Apple said there were 100 apps made by 30 different developers that included it. So there are millions of apps, so this is not like a widespread thing. And I don't know if you guys saw a list. I didn't see a list of what apps there were, but I didn't get the sense that these were like. It's not like Facebook. It's not like apps that everyone would have.
Mm-hmm.
So, although Facebook is still tracking
it is something for, like you said, location tracking. And it's funny, you look at their About Us page, and it talks about, it starts out from an app called Drunk Mode because the founder got a drunk call in the middle of the night. And so the idea is this is an app that you can put on your phone if you know you're going to be drunk, so you don't accidentally do a drunk dial. That's not a good start to this company. But it looks like the idea is you buy, and I've seen there was a prayer software, I can't remember which one it was, where it would show people who are using this software to pray at that moment throughout the world.
That's Divine Office.
That's Divine Office is one of them. There's another one that does that. I can't remember. Probably an iPray or something like that.
But we don't know that they're using this software.
I'm saying they're using this software, but I'm using this as an example of what this software does. It allows developers to put into their software, these people are using this software throughout the world, and it could be something as simple as finding people to get together to play a board game, or these are people throughout the world that are using this app for tracking or this purpose or that purpose, or find this person and things like that. And they're taking that composite data from all the different apps that are using this location software to then give it to, like you said, the DOD, or to government contractors who are giving it to the DOD, among other groups.
If I could ask a question for those who might know more, could this be a result of some of the COVID trackers that have come out?
Well, no,
should not be.
Not directly. So the COVID contact tracing APIs, those are put in there by Apple and Google.
Okay.
That's built into the operating system and has privacy safeguards built into it. They're not selling that data or anything like that. But there is a COVID connection where Xmode says, look, we're not just selling this to, the Pentagon and NSA to track you. Like, our stuff is used by national, federal, government health agencies. They weren't specific, who are using this to track pandemic related issues. So are people gathering in places, are getting statistics and data on how people are moving around in the midst of lockdowns and restrictions and that sort of stuff. And they'd say it's anonymized. Okay, but we didn't know this when we put your app on the phone. When I installed your stupid game or whatever utility app, I wasn't saying, oh, and please track where I go. Remember the movie service, that really bad one a few years ago, and the name slips my mind, but it was the one where I could pay $5 a month and go to any movie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And they eventually went out of business because the movie theater said no. But one of the ways they were trying to monetize it was tracking you from the moment you bought your ticket at home to when you got to the theater. It just is this idea of like, oh, people go out to dinner, and where do they go to dinner before, and selling that data, and like there was a huge uproar. People still want to keep some privacy. Just because I'm using your service, even if it's for free, doesn't mean I want to give up my privacy and let you track me wherever I go. So this is at the heart of our criticisms of Facebook and Twitter and other social media companies too.
Yeah, and this is the company, if you remember, right after COVID-19 blew up, that came out and said there's how many millions of college students went down to Florida for spring break in the middle of the pandemic, and then they showed where those people went. This is the company that did that, and I think that's where the questions started arising about what data they have and how they're using it.
Hey, how do you know that, guys? Oh,
yeah, yeah, exactly. The sad part is the tool that they use, where you can connect to people throughout the world and see where they're at and everything, is not a bad thing. It's just what they're doing with that data once they have it. And that's always the question. What are they doing with that data once they have it?
Among the apps that were part of this were a couple religious apps. These ones were Muslim apps. Muslim Pro, which notifies users when it's time to pray, and Muslim Mingle, which was a dating app. I mean, so for people of faith, that's concerning, because faith is one of our private areas of our life that we want to keep private, and affects our fundamental part of our liberty as American citizens and people in other countries as well. So very concerning.
And you could see, like, for example, with that Muslim prayer app, what it does is I could imagine what it does is it looks at what your location is and says, okay, it is noon. It is at dawn, Muslims famously,
and Mecca
they pray
is
at
this
dawn.
way. Right.
Yes, exactly.
You have to pray toward Mecca, so Mecca is that way. I could imagine that being a fundamental part of the app, is that location information.
So, but you can imagine that there are apps, not just things like that, which could have a legitimate use for this type of data, but you can imagine there are apps that are much less legitimate that are doing things with this as well too, that you might not even know that it is tracking you in the background.
Right. I'm glad that Apple and Google took action without having to be told to by the government. That there's clearly something that they want to keep a lid on, is this sort of data thing going out there. So I think we should move on from that point to our picks of the week, and we have some good picks this week. Joanne, what's your pick this week?
My pick is probably timely for those people who are looking at photos from years gone by while they're sitting in, COVID tide. It's called the Vividpix Restore, and it's a software that uses AI, artificial intelligence, to restore your old pictures. You can literally, and I've had it for a while, and I play with it. And I'm quite amazed, because I'm not a Photoshop person at all. So what this does for me is I take a picture that looks pretty yellow and I put it in my scanner. I scan it into the computer, and it will take a look at it, and then it will give me choices. Do you want it to go to this? Do you want it to be this clear? Do you want the colors just to be vibrant? Do you want it to be a little bit more subtle? And it will restore the picture. It's almost like what MyHeritage has been using on their site that you pay for, but this is your own copy of it. It does JPEGs, TIFFs, PNGs, the whole thing, but it's $49.99, and it's downloadable, and it's not a subscription, and it'll add metadata if you want to, put pictures in. And I've got literally a tub that I inherited full of old pictures that have creases in it, that have, colors are going all different ways. and I've seen it clean up quite a bit of stuff. So if you're starting to do that, because you're in COVID, or if you're a genealogist who wants to repair at home and you don't want to spend all that money to go to MyHeritage, then this is something I would take a look at. There's a free trial, and I'm still on the free trial because I have one picture left. They let you do 10 pictures. It's not like a week or a day or a month.
Right.
10 pictures, and then and they'll let you have the whole thing until you get to that 10th picture.
It's both Mac and Windows, which is good.
Mm-hmm. And it does slides.
Yep.
It does documents if you have old newspapers and things like that. So it'll work on that as well. Anything you can scan in or that's an old picture of.
If you know Photoshop, you could probably do some of this. Like you figure it out. But if you don't have that software, if you don't know all that this is a nice one click and leads you through it. That's nice. Very good. Good pick. Father Cory, what's your pick?
So I'm going to punt this week. Now, of course, a month ago we were on for the Christmas gifts, and I picked one that I said was on the way. It was literally on the UPS truck as we recorded, and it arrived that day, and I've had to be able to play with it. And so what I picked is the Dell AL619 OBD2 code reader with ABS and SRS support. Long story short, this is a car computer reader. This allows you to plug into your car using what's called the OBD2 onboard diagnostic 2 port on your car that every car since 1996, at least sold in the United States, has had. And even some cars before that have had it when they were first implementing it. And it's a way to see what your car is doing on a way that your dashboard will not show you. It lets you to see pretty much everything the computer sees, including, and this one's kind of nice because you can get some real basic ones that just tell you the OBD2 protocol, which tells you a lot. It tells you what the engine's doing and things. But manufacturers have added things since. And then you have ABS, analog brake system, the braking system. You have SRS, which is the airbag system. This lets you read all of that. And it can even tell you down to, you can plug in and you can see what your VIN number of your car is. That's how level of detail you can get. It knows everything about your car. You can do live data where you've got it plugged in and you drive around and it's showing you your engine is doing this kind of timing. You've got this kind of fuel efficiency. You're at this RPM, this speed. It shows you a lot of that kind of stuff. Obviously, it can read the error codes. You get the money light, also known as check engine light. When that turns on, you can look at those codes. And it will give you the code number that you can then go, do a Google search or whatever and figure out what that's saying. Again, I said, you can do all the computer stuff. You can do you can take that live data and it's got a SD card that you can then record that data to then look at later. So you can see, graphs of what that data is doing. And then there's also a software that you can download that will let you see that on your computer instead. So it lets you do, it lets you do as simple as just seeing what your car is doing and checking the error codes, to complex as if you're trying to tune a car. If you're more of a hands-on mechanic, it'll let you understand, how you can kind of tune the car to get the performance you want. In the manufacturer, they show a list or in the manual, they show a list of manufacturers, and it's all the big names: Acura, Audi, BMW, Chrysler, Ford, GM, Honda, Porsche, Saab, Vauxhall, which is a British one if you have a British reader, Renault, Peugeot. You name a manufacturer, it's most likely going to work with it. So most cars are going to work with it. It's nice for peace of mind to be able to, again, see that light turn on and say if it's something that might be just a momentary glitch. And, you can clear the codes so that it's like, oh, it's showing an O2 sensor. Well, let's clear the codes. Let's see if it comes back.
Right.
That's
a big one, is clearing the code.
Well, one example where you might get a false code is if you fuel up your car and you don't get the cap on right, you'll get an evap error, fuel evap system error. And what that, you might be, oh no, is there something wrong with my fuel tank? Is there something wrong with my, fuel pump? No, you just got to go redo your gas cap and you're fine, because new gas caps seal. So they need a full seal there. If that pressure isn't there, it throws an error code. So,
yeah, being able to clear a code and have it come back as a way of confirming that there's an actual error, that could save you a trip to the mechanic.
Exactly. And one nice thing about this one is it's got a 6-foot long cable to plug into the car, because sometimes these ports are very inaccessible.
Right.
They're under the dash. Like in the case of my Ford Escape, it's kind of right next to the steering wheel. It's really not hard to get to. But in the case of my Dodge Charger, it's under the steering wheel and back. So it's like behind the plastic under the steering wheel. So it's a little bit harder to reach. So that's kind of nice too.
Good. Excellent. Good pick. Still.
Yeah. Again.
So I've got a little, another one of my tales of woe, but it has to do with my pick. A few weeks ago, a little more than a week ago, I like to do crossword puzzles. I talked about this at length on Raising the Bets, my podcast I do with my wife. So I will give you an abbreviated version here. I like to do crossword puzzles during lunch at the table using my iPad and my Apple Pencil. One of the days last week I was distracted or something. I got up, I walked around the kitchen with my iPad, put it down a couple different places. When I finally came back to the iPad, the Apple Pencil was not in its magnetically attached place on the iPad. So I was looking for it. I looked everywhere. I could not find it. Just long story short, I literally did look everywhere. Said a prayer to St. Anthony, couldn't find it. I was just going to chalk it up to a loss and say I'm going to do without. Except I realized my daughter uses the iPad to do her Khan Academy math, and it uses the pencil. So I sucked it up and went to the Apple Store and bought another Apple Pencil it's not cheap. And then the other day I was sitting at and I used my pick to try to find it. I'll close out the Apple Pencil story and then tell you about my pick. I was sitting down at the table with my wife. I turn around. Our toaster oven is on the counter next to the table. You have to picture this in your head. I turn around and look, and there's my Apple Pencil magnetically attached to the little tray pan that gets slid into the oven. The only thing we can figure is that my son made some English muffin pizzas, put it, and when he was done, he put the pan on the table where it sucked up the pencil, and then put the pan back on top of the toaster where I would never find it. So now I have an extra Apple Pencil, which it's a little worse for the wear. I'm not sure what happened to it, but it's kind of scraped up pretty good. But in attempts to find this, I did some searching online and asking around, and people suggested this app called Bluetooth Finder. And the way it works is if you've ever attached something via Bluetooth to your device, whether your phone or your iPad, including your Apple Pencil, you launch this app and you walk around with it, and it will tell you if you're getting within range, if you're near the device, if it's nearby. So it's sort of like the tile trackers, except you can't make the device make a noise, right? I can't make my Apple Pencil make a noise. The downside is for some devices they have to be activated they have to be active in order to find it. And the Apple Pencil especially, it doesn't start looking for the Bluetooth device until it moves. And so they recommend, walking around shaking things. It didn't work for me, because it was on top of the toaster. I wasn't shaking the toaster.
Shake the toaster?
Yeah, I was not expecting it to be on top of the toaster. But it is a pretty good device or app for finding your Bluetooth devices. If you've got Bluetooth headphones that have fallen behind the couch or that sort of thing, or your phone. If you have an iPhone, you have Find My Phone, I suppose. But
would this be good for AirPods?
Yes, although I think it would work. Although AirPods also work with Find My.
Okay.
But sometimes they don't work great. For one thing, if you lose the case, that doesn't make the noise that the AirPods can. The newer iPhones have a directional Bluetooth finding, so you can will say you're getting close or you're pointed in the right direction, which I think it was nice. Hopefully that becomes more prevalent in iPhones and stuff like that. But yes, it would be good for finding anything that's Bluetooth connected. So just it's $5 Bluetooth Finder. So I spent the $5, and it didn't work for that, but hopefully it'll be useful for other things. All right. So that should do it for us for today. What did you think of our discussion? If you have any commentary on the idea of hardware subscriptions, Google's policy changes, or any of the headlines or picks of the week, you can let us know by commenting on the show at sqpn.com/technology or the SQPN Facebook page, facebook.com/StarQuestMedia, or send an email to technology@sqpn.com. And you'll find links from our discussion and our picks of the week on our show notes at sqpn.com. Please remember to like each episode of Secrets of Tech on Facebook or retweet it on Twitter, where we're at SQPN, and leave us comments, and you can engage with us there as well. Until next time, Father Cory Stika, thank you for joining me and sharing the secrets of technology.
Thank you, Dom.
Joanne Mercier, thank you as well.
Thanks, Dom.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Technology on StarQuest. Hey folks, this is Dom Bettinelli with just a quick update to finish the show. I forgot to mention during the show, we're going to be taking a quick break on Secrets of Tech for a couple of weeks over the Christmas holiday. There's not a lot of tech news to talk about, so there will not be a show the week of Christmas, so the 23rd would be our usual release date. There will also not be a show on the 30th. We'll be back in the new year, January of 2021. You should expect a show from us around the 6th of January, and then we'll be back on our regular schedule. So have a Merry Christmas and a blessed and Happy New Year.